And so they travelled miles just to hold each other tight. For all they had was paucity of time. She would always break his heart, he said. No, not completely true, she said. She would be breaking two, she knew. One his, one hers. And then he said goodbye and broke her hearts into fragments of a different kind. Because at the moment, she could not make it right and he did not have the time. They both deserved a heart that could be home. She looked at all the love she held that had only his name, to the moon and back several times. She scattered it all around him, hoping the clouds, the flowers, a few paths, butterfly wings, babbling brooks, wandering wild animals, chirping birds, and the breeze that caressed his skin would always remind him, somewhere in all the chaos and din, a girl who had not stepped over lines, jumped over walls and broke through life's barricades because she loved him. But she has all the odds stacked against her, and time was never their ally. Was this not meant to be? Is this how the story ends? Well, I don't know. A little courage and a lot of hope make dreams come true, they say. But right now, he and she are traveling miles to the moon and back again, only in opposite ways.
Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful. And, I didn't clap. It's so beautiful because poetry in some ways, some people just fear poetry because they are, fearful of looking into themselves too much.
Yeah.
If I am making myself clear.
No,
I don't know.
Of course, I get you completely.
It's, have you experienced that when you write or read poetry, and if you have read some poetry which has affected you, that is also welcome, of course, recommendations. But have you felt that if you are in this, mode, you are looking into yourself too much, and perhaps you are at the risk of perhaps bearing a bit.
But
too
when
much.
you write, I always feel writing is a very personal experience. And when you write from life, you write from experience, you write from other people's experience,
Right.
you write from stories you've heard, you write from stories that touch you, you write from, conversations you've had, feelings you felt, you write from everything.
Yeah.
Because writing is an all-encompassing experience.
Yeah.
So sometimes you write from what comes deep in your gut. Sometimes you write from something that you heard that really, really touched your heart.
Yeah.
Sometimes you write out of a feeling of empathy because of what you've heard about somebody going through. So I think writing is all about that.
Yeah.
And it's how you've kind of taken it into your system, and then how are you feeling about it is what finally comes out.
Actually, that was poetry right there. I think so. It rhymed a lot. If you go back to it, we'll watch it again. But that was it was quite poetic. So, but that's why a lot of people are afraid of it, especially in the establishment. People are afraid of poetry because historically, poetry has created problems.
Yeah.
Because it's a great tool and people can understand it also very quickly. It's easier to consume. Especially in the Middle Eastern countries, poets used to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of poets, what they did was
They were also so political.
activism, and they used it so effectively that the establishment. I think I was reading a book about Iran, and it was the same
Yes.
case. The poets were targeted immediately. I think it was Persepolis. So what happened was that they immediately knew that these guys have to be targeted because they are making people feel,
Yeah.
and that's
Exactly.
a very dangerous
And I
place.
think, and I think most of the time people are frightened of their feelings. And I think, it's easier to have, I think in a lot of times, it's easier to have no relationship or not be involved or not want to get into something where your feet get dirty rather than walk through the muck and then walk out.
Right.
And I think for me, poetry is that. It's like you get into it, you get deep into it, and then you probably walk parallel underground, or you probably dig deeper.
Yeah.
But you know that there will be a tunnel that you walk out of.
Yeah.
And when you do, you've been able to consume everything in the best way possible. And, you come out all sparkly on the other side. I may be a bit utopian, but then that's me.
No, that's good. That's good, because I think so. All writers and poets are a bit crazy.
Yeah, you have to
you
be.
have to be.
You have to
Otherwise,
be.
you won't be doing that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely fine. My next question was that because
Firstly, I think the whole idea behind the book and why I'm passionate about it, I think in today's day and age, there's so much of pressure to be someone, to look like someone, to behave like someone. It's just, especially in the world of social media, if you are not it, then you're a loser or you're nobody. And everyone doesn't really feel comfortable about that, right? And this book, especially for those people who don't kind of feel comfortable being out there and saying, hey, look at me, I'm this, I'm that. So I'm a die-hard introvert. My profession is acting and I love that. But I thought there is a voice for people, especially now, who kind of feel a misfit wherever they go, and they have to make an effort just to fit in. And that annoys me, because I think everyone is unique, everyone is different, and you can't have one thing that meets all. So that was the purpose behind the book, and it actually has pages of my diary, which I wrote 10 years back, 15 years back, and just recording how I was feeling. And in that you have poetry and prose, and also recalling my childhood, growing up in Delhi and everything. So I think it's, to me, it's a very, very, very important book. It talks about my relationship with God. It's in the format of a diary, so you can pick up any page and you'll see the date and how I was feeling that day. I mean, I think on my birthday, all I wrote was happy birthday, because that's what I felt, really. So it's just literally, and also it's very therapeutic. A lot of people who believe in journaling, it's a good way of journaling. It's a good way of expressing yourself, catharsis, as opposed to going to a counselor or a psychiatrist or whatever, which I say is the thumbs up. If you have issues, you should talk. But this was my way of bringing out in the open that let's talk about it. And because, we live in, like Rohan very nicely said, we live in an extroverted world. The one who is loudest is heard. The one who screams loudest is heard. One who creates noise is noticed. And the one who doesn't, and who just might be a sensitive person, you'll be overlooked. No one's going to look at you. Especially today's social media. So having been there, I just got fed up. And it annoys me. Because I come from an industry where it's important to be seen and blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. Because somewhere along the way, it tells people who are not like that you're less. For those who can do it and enjoy it, fantastic. But to me, it's the voice of those who don't fit in, don't really enjoy it. And people look at them very strange, like, oh, what happened? What do you mean? You're going to just sit and read? You're not going to go out? You're not going to party? I'm like, no, I don't.
So the first book was written as a way of forming habits. So any habit that you want to form, what is the blueprint of forming that particular habit, right? So we had, how do you create intention? How do you follow the 3 golden rules of habit change? How do you deal with this motivation that comes, and how do you let go of motivation? What about all these bad habits? So those that the book was about those
accountability
partners. All of that was part of that book. It was called Change Your Habits, Change Your Life.
Yeah.
So that book happened because HarperCollins came and said that, will you write a book for us? And I said, the book is already written. I'd already finished writing that book.
Yeah.
And then the children's team came to me and said that we'll write a book for children, because it is important that children also learn habits. And that was the second book, the Book of Good Habits for Children. Yeah. And it was 8 habits that I felt children between the age group of 6 to 9 need to know. So habits like solitude. How do you stay by yourself instead of just constantly saying mummy, 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 daddy, daddy, daddy. The habit of curiosity. How do you go and learn things instead of just telling your parents why?
Yeah.
So how do you actually find answers? Gratitude, very powerful. Money, friendships, all those kinds of things. Then, as you know, I have a podcast called the Habit Coach Podcast. So the Habit Coach Podcast, which is in partnership with IVM, it's a partnered podcast. IVM got bought over by Pratilipi.
I know.
And Pratilipi bought Westland.
They are our partners as well.
And Westland, Pratilipi partners at Blend Bazaar.
Yeah.
So as a result, what happened was they said that, you know what, let's convert your podcast into a book. Because you've come up with 1,000 episodes, you have so much information and knowledge. What if there's a book on this? I said, excellent, but let's figure out how we can do this.
Yeah.
And what I did was I took this opportunity of creating a book, which is a workbook.
Okay.
So a podcast typically tells you something, you read it, and maybe you follow it, maybe you don't.
How to read better? And there is this big question, and I just noticed someone in a bookshop yesterday, and they came in and just look. They were looking for something very particular.
Okay.
So nobody has cracked the pattern, right? I mean, nobody knows like how people are reading, how to read better, what is the process. Tell us more about that.
Now, reading better could mean multiple things for, what your requirement at that point is. I think the first fundamental is that do you even enjoy reading? Only then can you hope to be better at it. It's almost like, if you go back to school and you don't enjoy math, you don't even like the idea of math. No matter how many tutors your parents employ for you, you're still going to suck at it.
Sahi baat hai.
And you will lose organic interest in it. But if you're someone who's just genuinely curious, who thinks, oh wow, like, okay, I may never use the Pythagoras theorem, I may never actually do any quadratic equation, I still think it's wonderful that on the basis of these basic principles, you have everything revolving around the world. That allows for at least some little space of, curiosity and blooming and developing. It's the same with reading. I see most people entering this as a hobby with the wrong intention. It's always only to upskill. It's always only to retain information. It's always only to, how do I better myself? How do I better myself that?
Annotation.
Yeah.
All of that.
All of that.
It's getting quite mechanical. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, do you enjoy a good book? And if you don't, all of these are just peripheral, trends that come and go. To be a really good reader, you first have to enjoy the craft. Then you start knowing yourself as a reader more and you start picking out books that are better for you. That's the other aspect. Pick better books. Invest time in choosing where you put your money in and where you choose, like your book is a companion. So it's almost like a mini marriage.
Yes.
And as
Or
Warren
dating.
Buffett said, you got to pick them right. So invest in finding a good book and for yourself and for your needs. And it's absolutely okay to want to be entertained. It's absolutely okay to want to be learning something. But don't enter it through just that one focus कि मुझे ज्ञान चाहिए तो बुक से चाहिए.
peer pressure भी एक बहुत बड़ी चीज है क्योंकि अब सब वारिको पढ़ रहे हैं तो हम भी वारिको पढ़ रहे हैं. It doesn't work like that. आपको क्या जरूरत है? आपको कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है उससे तो just pick up fiction or something like.
I also see this aversion to fiction. Thanks to the likes of all these dude bros on LinkedIn and Twitter and everywhere. Fiction is not a waste of time. The reason why you suck at captivating an audience and you suck at empathy is because you've not bothered to find other people's stories interesting. And you apply those fundas when you're pitching your product to venture capitalists and taking money, but you never translate those insights into the human condition, into your own employees or your people or the people you're creating for. And that disconnect is showing in a lot of things.
It is showing actually. You're so right. And although I had not kind of, thought about it, but since it has cropped up, came up in this conversation, what are the advantages of kind of, reading fiction? Because a lot of people, and I know that people are just, making notes from non-fiction right now. What about fiction? How does one learn from there? Can you elaborate? Because, it is, in the beginning, when you pick up books, you don't understand. Like, how do I learn? Or is it like, can it be more subconscious, on a subconscious level?
So I'll give you my example because I can only speak authentically about myself. There's this one book that I've now shown on social media because it's not available. It's called Who is Silence? It's this set of, I think, 50 fairy tales written by a Russian author. And that book has taught me everything in life.
Okay.
How do you treat someone? There's a story in it about who is silence, which is, I think, in about 1,000 words, it tells a child the importance of silence.
Okay.
And why it is so important to have some time to yourself where you just think and you think about yourself, about what you are feeling.
Yeah.
It's just that one story. Imagine reading that as a 7-year-old. Instantly, I felt like, oh, this story has validated me because I also need silence. I can't always be playing. I can't always be learning. I can't always be, chit-chatting with my parents. There's another book in that which talks about carrying yourself with grace. And it is about this soup tureen, which is this big bowl of where you put your soup in.
Yeah.
Not used in India as often, but so that soup tureen, because it carries within itself so much volume, it has to be graceful.
Okay.
It can't afford to be clattering like spoons because it's made of porcelain. It has to be stately. And again, this intangible aspect that makes us look up to some people, like, oh, they're charismatic, oh, they're witty, oh, they're so empathetic. When you meet them, you get a good vibe.
Yeah.
You learn all of this from fiction.
Yeah.
No self-help book. I mean, all respect to Dale Carnegie, but he may teach you how to form friends, but what is friendship is something that fiction will tell you. Yeah. So that's what, and I firmly believe, again, you don't have to learn everything from everything you see. Sometimes a joke is just a joke. It's not teaching.
Showing up at all kinds of events or podcasts or whatever. This podcast, for example, you need not be here, but you're here. So I really love that about you and this journey. Let's step back a little bit. Go to when it all started, and it's important because through this podcast, I really want to delve into that.
Right.
आप लिखना चाह रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा वहां से शुरू करते हैं और फिर बात करते हैं कि क्या हुआ उसके बाद और कैसे people can also learn. जो बहुत ही मतलब teenagers ना especially keep on throwing this question to us and other communities as well कि क्या करें मतलब what do we do? So
let's rewind and let's go back to 2016.
Okay.
This is the year when I decided that I really want to write books. So until here, I wanted to do it, but because this is not a formal career option or a choice, and you come from a middle class family, so everyone tells you there are so many good options, so many fat paychecks that you can get. Why you want to write a book, like of all the things, and you're very passionate about it. You feel it when you sit down with a pen and paper. Ideas just flow, but you don't know what next or where next from here. And the biggest fear is fear of the unknown.
Yes.
आगे होगा क्या और क्योंकि कुछ नहीं होगा let's drop it. ये करते ही नहीं है. That is what I was doing until 2016. But in 2016 I decided, okay, let me get into this. Let me see ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा. Book नहीं चलेगी, but let me write my first book.
Okay.
So in 2016 I wrote my first book, On the Open Road. And after I was done with the book, I sort of Googled like everybody does. Who are the publishers? How do you write to them? And I went to the formal route that is written on Google. And nobody wrote back to me. And that is what happens to most of the first-time writers in India. Because the publishers, they get so many requests that they don't really have time to like look into every request. And
not
probably
before.
not even the time to send a reply to everyone.
True.
So my problem was not that nobody wrote back. I mean, the problem really was that no bhi nahi bola. Like if you say no, there's a closure to the story, but there was no closure. So I said, okay, let me self-publish. So I read about self-publishing, and a lot of authors do it in the West. I thought, let me try it in India. It might work, it might not work, but since यहाँ तक आ गए हैं और पीछे जाने का कोई सवाल ही नहीं है, let's just go ahead and do this. So that is where I decided that I'll self-publish, and I launched my book via Kindle, Kindle publishing. So it was just an ebook. It was not a paperback. While all through my life I had dreamt of a book that I could touch and feel. This is how I had decided to launch, and I was not very comfortable with it. But I said, okay, it's going to be a start. You have to start somewhere. If you don't start, if you keep sitting, somebody someday might reply, then someday ही चलता रहेगा. वो कभी होगा नहीं, कभी formalize नहीं होगा. तो आगे बढ़ते हैं. And that is where I launched my first book on the open road on Kindle. It was a competition, and to my surprise, it did well. Like I had not imagined, but it did decently well. So that is where I got the confidence to like go ahead and self-publish it. So you won't believe, my house where I lived, and it was a rented apartment at that time, actually became a warehouse because I was selling from my home. I was placing order with the printer. I was packing these books, writing notes for each one of readers, because that's what I said. That what was my promise, that if you order my book, I'm going to write a personalized message for you.
Wow.
And I packed each and every book with my hand, and I used to dispatch it with the Amazon guy every day. And I started with Amazon, then went to Flipkart, so on and so forth. But Amazon is where I started. Because that was the easiest thing to do. For
I
me,
think KDP is kind of, super convenient as well.
Super convenient.
Fast
with the ebook. With the ebook, it's super convenient, but with paperback, KDP doesn't really work in India. Nobody knows that. Like people feel paperback bhi launch hota hai, but nahi. That happens in the West, but that doesn't happen in India. I said, I will print it. I will get it done. I will make my house, my warehouse. I will dispatch it via Amazon to each and every customer, and I'll write a note for them.
So this is Delhi? You do
This
this
is
in
Delhi.
Delhi?
Yes, this is Delhi. And I'm doing this now. We are like a little bit ahead in the curve, because I wrote a book for an year, then I did not hear back for an year. So this happened, come to 2020. I spent a lot of time in between trying and figuring things out. And then I did this in 2020. And lockdown happened. Within 1 month of getting all the things in place, the lockdown happened. And now again I am where I was in the beginning. आगे होगा क्या? आगे कैसे जाएंगे? But then somehow when the lockdown was lifted for the first time, the book did pretty well. And this is the second book, You Only Live Once. And the book did so well that it went out of stock.
Oh.
Right.
Wonderful.
And then somebody told me, see, this is the real place in life where you can say you arrived.
Yes.
Because, to get all these books stocked out on your own is a big thing. It really doesn't happen. And
when we are talking about the youngsters, and this is something which I'm speaking from my personal experience of being a speaker and a global youth mentor, delivering sessions and workshops internationally on various platforms, primarily focused on the youngsters. So when I interact with them, when I get to know more about them, the one thing that even I agree with as a youngster myself is the fact that the youth of today wants innovation. More than anything else, they want to be innovative. They want to be innovative. They want to see that innovation in the world. भले ही हम लोग literature की बात कर रहे हो, भले ही हम लोग technology की बात कर रहे हो, कहीं भी हो सकता है. कहीं भी हो सकता है. Even cooking को ही आप ले लीजिए. They want to do it differently. And I don't think it is because they are harsh about the past. कई बार ऐसा हम लोग का perspective होता है that the youngsters are very much dismissive of how their history has been or how their past has been. But that is not always the case. It can be the case sometimes, but majority of the youngsters, they respect their roots. They genuinely do. They want to learn from the same, but they want to learn more about how they can go further. वो रुकना नहीं चाहते, वो थमना नहीं चाहते. जैसा कि कई मूवीज के डायलॉग्स भी होते हैं कि आज के यंगस्टर्स आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं, which is a fact. It is not something which I'm stating just philosophically for the sake of it. It is a fact that the youngsters want to do things, but they want to do it differently. And I think that is where at times जो हम लोग को generational conflict देखने को मिलता है, because even though the goal might be the same, but different generations have different, I guess, methods or perspectives of viewing those methods. और कहीं ना कहीं communication gap भी बहुत ज़्यादा इसी कारण बढ़ जाता है, because youngsters have their own language entirely, and that is what it becomes. That gap, that I guess breakage, and eventually हम लोग कहीं ना कहीं youngsters को ही question करने लगते हैं in terms of how disciplined they might be or how even passionate they might be, which I can assure you as a youngster myself, we have a lot of passion, we have a lot of drive. बस थोड़े से encouragement की.
आप कोई भी नाम बताओ, any famous name. Okay, I will tell you उस व्यक्ति का 0 डिग्री पे कौन सा प्लानट है, 10 डिग्री पे कौन सा प्लानट, 20 डिग्री पे. ये जो हम जो बात कर रहे हैं ना, जो रजनीकांत Pluto is in 0 degrees.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's a commonality
and Pluto 0 degree पे होना is like अभी पैंडेमिक जो क्रिएट किया ना वो प्लूटो जब 0 डिग्री पे हुआ तब चल के वो पैंडेमिक हुआ और वैसे ही एक टाइम जब प्लूटो जब लियो द ज़ोडिएक साइन में आया तब रजनीकांत का जन्म हुआ जो which makes him a mass superstar.
Wow. Okay, let's stick to Messi because
Messi,
we just
Messi.
went away from it because he was so in your head.
Yeah.
Like,
So
how did you figure it out?
Correct. So I had to remove that the Messi fan in me. And क्या हुआ कि because I know that his chart is extremely super powerful, so I knew that he's going to win a major tournament. और वो it's not like बार्सिलोना के लिए आप इतना सारा गोल मार रहे हैं and आप जीत रहे हैं वो important नहीं है because there is not the captain.
Obviously.
Okay, so you have to do it for Argentina. That only then it is like a huge thing. So I was always knowing that Argentina के लिए Messi is going to be winning something huge. Okay, and I was envisaging that he can win a World Cup. See, I'll tell you. कोरिलेशन बता रहा हूँ मैं ओके 19 देयर आर पैटर्न्स ओके 1981 अभी स्पोर्ट्स की बात करते हैं तो 1981 इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ईयर अगर आप यू लुक एट स्पोर्ट्स में फुटबॉल यू हैव अ ईकर कैसियास यू लुक एट टेनिस रोजर फेडरर you look at cricket you have a MS Dhoni so ये सब ऐसा ग्रेट्स है ना वो एक ही टाइम में पैदा हुए 81 उसके बाद जो अगला पैच आता है इट कम्स इन 83 Okay, 1983 जिसमें Philip Lam who was the football winning captain of 2014 है then you have a lot of players but India in cricket it is very interestingly it is West Indies का जो captain है he has won 2 T20 World Cup okay so he I'm just forgetting his name okay so he is born Sammy Darren Sammy so Darren Sammy is born in 83 लेकिन वो पैच है ना इतना सिर्फ 3 महीने के लिए था वो so it's very very rare patch
and then he kind of faded away and fizzled out
correct so you cannot make out that patch क्योंकि आप blink an eye में मिस कर दोगे आप तो वैसे में मिस कर दिया वो पैच को okay because I was always thinking that कि 83 में कोई है नहीं and it is 86 या 80 क्योंकि उसके बाद का पैच है ना it comes in 86 87 अगर आप if you look at the big three of tennis okay so at this point of time
Djokovic
Nadal and Federer Federer nahi Nadal and Andy Murray so
a lot of people are talking it's a myth AI is not going to happen like this not like this but it's going to be reality very soon very very soon much before what we think right so AI the biggest I think it's a blessing as well but at the same time is going to be a disaster for many industries also including publishing some of the jobs going to go I was just reading an article sometime back about AI and AI can do anything like there was a case study where somebody asked about doing an artwork based on a very popular gate master and the AI gave so many options not one or two in a fraction of seconds but the biggest worry okay you get the content from the person from AI but then the biggest worry is who owns the copyright is it AI is it the publishing house is it the editor or is it the audience so that's the law which still I think it's still very new. We're still discussing. I'm sure the world is discussing right now. It's going to come very soon. The law because
it will come soon. It will come soon
because AI can even do things like you just tell I need to make a new love story, pick up the reference from the top 100 stories of the world, and AI will deliver it to you in seconds.
That's it.
So you don't need time. AI will never get bored. AI will never get frustrated. AI will never get tired
and get better.
And get better because it's learning every day from every person in the world.
And like we were discussing the training a model thing. For example, I say that write a book just like Ruskin Bond.
Imagine and you get it.
And then you give it levels like base it somewhere and I actually tried it. By the way.
Oh my
God! I posted it on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Everybody
okay.
was like,
really?
like,
oh my God! Because AI will learn your way of working as well. The way you speak, the way you write. If you give some writing over the period to this mechanism,
it's trained.
So it will get trained and it will write exactly the way you write.
I think when
So,
you go back to
yeah.
Harvard, that you're planning to.
I hope I get it.
You'll get it.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure about it.
That's my wish list. So
You
everyone has
the-
to have a wish list.
You have
know?
the pedigree
Yeah.
to go there,
Yeah.
and I suppose that could be one issue which
Yeah.
kind of comes up,
Yeah.
and everybody will address it.
Oh yeah. The world is talking about it.
Yeah.
The world we see right now is going to change very fast. So be
Yes.
prepared.
I think,
So
and
we
I
need
read
to
somewhere that
yeah.
most changes are coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So
early.
it should be
early.
fast.
In our industry, is going to be first.
Okay.
The content-based industry is
Yes,
going to be
it
the
is,
first.
it
You know,
is. So-
look at the journalism.
Yeah.
Like all the journalists,
Yeah.
the writings. AI will do it. The reports.
Okay. Yes.
So the court cases. Lawyers.
Yeah.
So
Everything.
all those study will just do. AI will do it.
Yeah.
So in other words, we'll be much more lazy than us, than
Yes.
now.
Yes.
So it's just,
Yes.
so it's then I don't know, how to overcome that laziness because during COVID, everyone has become lazy also to
Yes.
some extent.
Yes.
Because everybody has that comfort level of moving out, moving in, which I'm sure soon this will disappear.
Yes. I think on the second episode when we shoot you again.
Oh, I hope you do.
Of course, and we should have more clarity for us.
Yeah.
You know
Oh, I'm
what's
sure.
happening.
Yeah, of course.
What's happening,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
because it's too new.
Yeah.
2-3 months, 4 months. It's like quite
Every
early
day
into
the
it.
study is coming out. Every
Yes.
single day the study is coming out.
And Google is jumping in. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that will change the scenario.
That tells me innovation in publishing, which is a lot of people are trying to kind of innovate.
Yes.
And I see it
Yes.
I noticed someone putting QR codes.
Yeah.
And I met that person I think during the pandemic they did it.
Yeah.
They did QR codes for the ease of learning. I think
Yeah.
so. What are the discussions?
But-
But don't reveal anything which is
Yeah.
personal to your company, but in general.
Yeah, but I'm coming back to the AI just to follow it up on because if I talk about my industry, which is publishing, so the problem which is going to come with AI is all the middleman, the whole process of publishing will definitely change, and it's going to change. The process of commissioning AI can't do,
Yes.
right? So that job is secured. As a CEO or chief editor, that will not change because AI can't handle that, right? You have to tell AI something, right? So you need some people, right? The process, which is editorial, proofing, all that things will change to a bigger number. And look at the unemployment.
Yes.
Will happen. So that's the bigger worry we should discuss.
That's the bigger worry,
Because and it's not just our industry; it's every industry.
It's everywhere.
Look at the advertising world.
Yeah.
And see, every company needs literature, needs some writing, needs some brochure, catalog, blah, blah, blah.
Copywriting in general.
So many things you need, right? You need lawyers, you need copyright lawyers. So that will be converted into AI.
Yes.
So that is a worry which I feel, which I don't see any solution to all those people.
And people are not actually realizing that it's an issue. Some people are like, okay, they are not realizing what is coming.
Exactly,
So that's something which we need to kind of think on our feet.
I will give a word tsunami.
Yeah.
We're going to have a tsunami kind of effect with AI in every different field. Yeah.
It's coming.
So we should be prepared. Then later on realize, oh my God, what has happened? So
I
we should
have asked
be.
Greenstone, the astrologer, who has written that
Actually,
book. I should have asked him, what's
yeah.
coming, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
because
Greenstone, tell us what's coming. So, in the comments, please tell us.
even though I don't totally believe in it, but
I also don't believe.
Yeah,
he has a very scientific approach.
Yeah. Scientific, I'm okay.
Yes, he has a very scientific approach.
Yeah.
I'll give you his book as well.
I asked my author because we did a book on Wicca, like witchcraft, which Sashi Through launched the book very nicely, and then he spoke pretty well on the subject. So she comes on ZTV every day, so she has her own channel. So I'll speak to her as well about what's coming, what's 2023 coming up with us.
Why not?
Yeah, for our industry especially.
I'll take you back to the bookstores a little bit later, but I really want to delve into the book buying experience. What are your thoughts on it? What do you think of it in terms of other bookstores as well? Of course, it's not like looking at it critically, but just your opinion on that, and what are the things that you are trying to bring in about the experience, because that's what I feel that it has been lacking a bit. If you, I love to visit bookstores in all cities, visited Bangalore, Hyderabad, everywhere. but it's kind of, it's not, people have not figured it out, like how it will go forward. And with technology coming in, we are also kind of competing with a lot of time with the OTTs and everything. So what is your opinion on that, the book buying experience? How do you think it can get better? And what is Kunzum and Ajay trying to, kind of I call Kunzum and Ajay because you have a team as well, and I know that they work all hard as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I think any product category, right? The times we are living in, right? It's now all about the experience that you create, right? Because the product differentiators are not too many. You could pick up a Levi's jeans, or you could pick up a Calvin Klein jeans, right? Except the price, they more or less feel the same, right? Because I have both, so I know, right? So you just pay higher for Calvin Klein, right? So, but really, I think, especially for books, you see, at one level, right, books are a commodity. And that's why Jeff Bezos started with books as Amazon, because that is one product category, right? A book by Colin Hoover printed on paperback in a certain format is exactly the same product no matter where it is sold, right? Same price, same product, no matter where it's sold. So eventually it becomes about convenience, right? And that's what common sense tells you, which means in theory, every bookshop should close down because you know which book you want to buy, right? And you can just order it, it'll get delivered to you at a discount, which is an unfair trade practice, but that's a different debate altogether, right? It comes to you whenever you want. Now we have same day deliveries and all that stuff. But what Amazon and any other online retailer will not give you, what a typical bookshop will also not sometimes give you is, see, they are just stacked with books, right? Digitally or in a store, right? But book buying is more than that, right? It's a cultural experience. So at one level, when you go, you are savoring the whole experience of book buying. More importantly, there is a great number of books out there which I have started discovering for myself as a bookseller. I didn't know that, right? There are such great books being written. A lot of books are being repackaged. They look so good, you just want to hold them and read them, right? You want to gift them. But you can do that only when you discover them.
Totally. And my personal experience, I visited Kunzum and a week or 10 days back, and Krishna here told me that there is a graphic novel variant of version of 1984, and I wasn't aware of that. And he was like, okay, this you'll find only here, like most of the graphic novels. Anyways, that's an experience where kind of I was surprised. Okay, you're talking about discoverability. That's so important.
Yes. So what you would buy online is stuff you already know about, right? Stuff which an algorithm will tell you, or stuff that ChatGPT will tell you, right?
Now,
But culture will always remain human, and books are a culture, right? So the way we designed the stores, right? So actually, just going one step behind, when I was conceiving this whole idea of Kunzum, I imagined my whole own book buying experience, both online and in bookstores. I looked at what I liked and what I didn't like. What I didn't like was very often, even I was buying on Amazon, right? Especially during the pandemic, I was ending buying up books which I didn't read. Why? Because they seemed good books, they seemed readable books, but they were a disappointment. So one thing I tell people, if you're getting a discount on Amazon, it may not be an actual discount because they'll prompt you to buy stuff you will not like to read. So overall, your cost of acquisition has actually gone up.
Yes. And also, I mean, with sponsored posts, increasing on the algorithm and everywhere. So it is creating a sort of, the algorithm has changed also. So over the past, say 2-3 years.
Possibly, And but most bookshops I would go to, like they're like stacked with books and books and books, right? In theory, they will have all the books that Kunzum has. In practice, they don't, but in theory, they could, right? But that whole browsing experience is so disappointing because the books are stacked up, the aisles are narrow, you don't have proper place to sit, you can't leisurely see the books, right? So it's just a very transactional experience. Right. So we wanted to create spaces where curation becomes important, the experience becomes important, the ambience becomes important, and this whole community feel becomes important. So that's how we designed, and if you we made our stores this way, and then after we had done this, I read a few articles on how chains like Waterstones and Barnes and Nobles have been turned around, and I realized they're doing things which we are also doing. So it was a great validation.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My friend works at Waterstones, and he's a coder. Okay, he makes websites. He manages the websites, their websites. And I was asking him, like, dude, you can get a job anywhere in the world. He's like, you can't even imagine, where I'm working. And he works from the bookstore, and he makes their websites and manages all the tech. So I understand what you're saying, that he is not getting out of that space because he's enjoying it so much. Although he's a code and a reader, but he's not going out of it.
My journey with Havoc started very weirdly, to be honest. It started because, not because I wanted to start something new or anything. I used to always consult authors because वो आते रहते थे, कोई ना कोई आ रहा है, please बता दो क्या, because I was very approachable. I would be like, free की knowledge दे रहे हो, चलो ठीक है. But what happened was कि around the moment I finished my books and everything, I used to have like 2 months of writing, like 10 months of doing nothing. तो कितनी पार्टी कर लो?
Oh yes. I know.
So marketing में कितना ही मतलब right. So like two because मुश्किल से 2 किताबें निकलती है एक साल में, उससे ज़्यादा करोगे तो cluttering the on your own brand also. So then I was getting very frustrated and I started having anxiety. So I was diagnosed with panic disorder. And I was like, यार ये तो मेरे को पहले समझ नहीं आता था anxiety क्या होती है, और मेरे को हो गई. And I still remember, I was like, what, I have to do something constructive. So let's start something which I'm good at, I knew how to sell books. And I also obviously consulted, like for instance, Tuti Chamle consulted. I consulted Saksham also, even now I help him, as a friend. So इतना कंसल्टेशन इतना कर लिया, मैं समझ गया कुछ तो काम कर रहा है, something is working, so I might as well just start it. So that is how Havoc started. It started out just as a digital marketing company, but then we kind of realized over a period of time that just marketing is not something that authors require. It requires everything. From editing, they are not getting good, because what used to happen was I used to get a lot of leads जो editing के लिए आते थे, and I used to give it to third party, and अच्छा काम नहीं करते थे तो हमें आने पड़ती थी. So we realized that might as well that keep in-house. So eventually what happened now at today's stage, after 2 years, we just celebrated yesterday 2 years of Havoc.
Wow, congrats.
So basically now we are a one-stop literary marketplace. A to Z, even for distribution we help, even for online we help, everything. So that's what Havoc has become.
Like we are a publisher and we are a retailer also. And for that sense, we know the market pulse from our bookshop. Like every time when the things are changing, we know much before than any other publishers. Because we get every day, we get a feedback from our shops. The people comes, they give us a new feedback, they give us a new ideas, they give us a new topics, like this kind of books you have it or not. And for that we implement into our publishing house. We try to implement their queries, we try to implement their subjects, we try to implement their thought process, कि उनको क्या नया क्या चाहिए, कैसे नया बनाना है, तो उसको फिर हम अपने publishing house के अंदर implement करते हैं through their inputs. तो वो changes automatically time to time आती रहती हैं. जैसे पहले एक सब्जेक्ट बहुत अच्छा बिक रहा है, suppose mythology अगर अभी अच्छा बिक रहा है, तो maybe after some time mythology is not sell very well, I know, after some time. So can you give us a specific example? जैसे mythology में भी थोड़ा सा change देखा है हमने. Kevin, this is for you as well. Because purest form of like mythology was working when you got in, and you did well in that. And of course, so what is the change now? How does दिस जॉनर थी पहले क्या हो रहा था कि पहले कुछ भी मैथोलॉजी के ऊपर आ रहा था ना तो बिक रहा था। अभी रिसर्च मटेरियल जो है अब वो ज़्यादा अच्छा लोग ले रहे हैं जिसके अंदर ऑथेंटिसिटी ज़्यादा अच्छे से हो, लोगों को इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड हो, जो लोग एक से एक उससे कनेक्ट कर सकें। बेसिकली इट्स नॉट लाइक आप बहुत ज़्यादा हैवी भी लिख देंगे तो लोग कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाएंगे। आपको उसी लैंग्वेज में लोगों को लिखना है जिससे वो एक दूसरे के साथ कनेक्ट कर सके, अपने आप को उससे बुक के साथ भी कनेक्ट कर सकें और उसको अंडरस्टैंड कर सकें। अगर आप एकदम मैथोलॉजी काइंड ऑफ लैंग्वेज के अंदर अगर उसको आप लिखेंगे तो वो इतनी जल्दी आम लोग नहीं उसको समझ पाएंगे। तो ऐसे ही कोई भी सब्जेक्ट होता है तो उसका एक टाइम होता है, एक टाइम फ्रेम होता है कि हाँ भाई अभी बिक रहा है तो ऐसा नहीं कि 10 साल वो बिकता ही रहेगा। वो चेंज धीरे धीरे चेंज आता रहता है क्योंकि हर जो जितने भी रीडर्स हैं दे वांट समथिंग न्यू, उनको कुछ नया चाहिए, एक के बाद एक को नया चाहिए। तो एक जर्नी है जो सब सब्जेक्ट्स को लेके कभी प्लस कभी माइनस कभी ऊपर कभी नीचे चलता रहता है।
Like most authors that I have worked with, so उनका मतलब the common challenge that they face is that they are not marketers, you know, so they don't know how to put themselves out there. Like they know nothing about personal branding. They might not even have like a basic website. And you know they might not have mailing list to aap bhul jao, you know. So often at times like they have to start from scratch, you know. So now again, like I wrote an article like a few weeks ago about the ultimate guide to book marketing. In that also I wrote ki dekhiye, like an author who has 350,000 followers, you know, or an author who is or an individual who is already a well-established name, he's going to far outsell any author, you know, which is coming out with a debut novel, you know. So the statistics point out that, like, you know, a debut novel sells at most, like, you know, 3,000 copies if it's by a publishing house, and you know, otherwise if it's self-published then it might sell even less. You know, so the odds are always stacked up against, like, you know, debut authors, especially the first time authors. So what I advise to them is, like, you know, that start developing a strong personal brand, and you know, start a few months before, because most authors like have this conception ki I'll release the book, marketing ho jayegi, you know. So that conception is quite wrong in my opinion. I think you need to develop like a fair amount of like readers' interest, where, like, you know, where readers are aware about who you are and they like you to a certain extent, because if they know who you are and if you have some sort of likability, then like the chances of your book selling are high. So like that is, like, you know, what we do, like, you know. So like with debut authors, like, you know, our marketing strategy is different. With like established names, like, you know, our marketing strategy is different. And like, of course, like there are various technicalities also that we get into. For example,
time in my life, because I was often a woman traveling alone with a 10-male crew, and one of the shows I did went to coastal towns across the world. And I'm going to be completely honest about this. It meant, because I was swimming, I was in a swimsuit, which to me would seem like most practical choice to wear for swimming. But of course, Indian television exploded. I was in a swimsuit. And the aftermath of that was something I was really not prepared for. My training used to be a writer. My training was not to be someone in the public eye. My training was not, you know, something where I didn't even realize, because I grew up without television. My parents were very strict about that. I did not realize it. No television. Okay. Actually, I still don't know how to put on a TV. I still do not know it. I have to bend my husband if I want to. Yeah, too bad. That's too bad. More is embarrassing. More, no, it's not. I think it was so refreshing. Honestly, the other night, just like 3 nights ago, my husband had gone to bed and he'd forgotten and he left the TV on. And I called him in a panic from the den and I was like, Daddy, how do I switch it off? And he's like, this is a red button. It's a red button. It was so funny. I didn't expect this. It was such a, but this is so funny. Holly, let's talk about, like, this is the thing, right? That because I just about water babies. Exactly. So because I had this set of upbringing and I wasn't a TV person at all, I don't have a prepared for what TV does in terms of fame and popularity, in terms of, you know, public image. And now it's been 10 years since that shit. And are they trying for me? Oh, wow. Yeah. They're trying for you. Oh, retro baby. Around. Yeah, now that I'm 10 years past that time, I finally have the ability and the perspective to look back and sort of examine my life. And, I turn 40 next year. And so it feels like, you do? Yes. Exactly, 40 years. So it feels like a really good time to examine, it feels like the midpoint of life, on the center. And so it feels like a big time to examine everything that's come before this. Yeah. And I finally decided to write Dancing a Sort of Memoir and Tableau, and that's what will become more to me. Yeah. My editor doesn't hear me sitting here because I'm supposed to be sending her a draft right now. And I'm like, I got water, baby. The truth is, I'm halfway through the book, and it's very interesting writing non-fiction, especially personal non-fiction. Yep. After writing fiction, because I think you're so vulnerable. As I'm glad I have the women's that I've done before this, because I have some level of influence with that vulnerability. And I'm sure, you agree with this, that it's such a wearing sort of those people, right? And let's talk about the book that you're on, because that's interesting. We really wanted to ask you about that, because that's another aspect with multiverse, the multiverse. Name of you actually. Yeah. Why did that come up? Of course, you are a reader, and you have kind of, we've never watched TV. Yeah, I believe that you were reading all the time. I have wanted to open the end of the club, and all I'm achieving with that because I read so much. Okay. And I actually I don't read that much. I try and read about 50 books a year, and then include that's I want to have it. Then that's a very good knowledge. So it is, but I know I have friends, especially in this industry, read like 200 books a year, and I'm shocked. Are you reading? It is possible. Yeah, but that's all. So I made my peace with having 50 books a year. But because I read quite a lot, I would often get asked for the recommendations. And I had people writing to me all the time. People I won't know, wonderful people reaching out and saying, I want to read something like this. Could you recommend it? And whether it was good. And I don't want to waste time on a book that isn't good, so tell me. And finally I thought, why don't I formalize this? And I started something called Karuna's Kitab Club. That is actually just one branch of like a bigger thing I'm trying to do. It's something I've launched for the Books Need People Company. Yep. And I just felt what's it called again? Books Need People. Books Need People. Right. It's the Books Need People Company, and one branch of this is the Kitab Club. There's all kinds of other things. There's a podcast. There's never Discord about. There's a Discord. Yeah, it's excellent. I'm very happy about that. But what I do is I get books from there, and people ask me for recommendations, so I forward it. It has to be paid, by the way. But it has to be a paid community, because I am just grabbing books from there and recommending people. No, so that's the thing, that I wanted to take the commercial aspect out of it. I really feel that reading is for everyone. Yeah. I feel that it is, reading and writing, they're very isolated things, right? You grew up alone. And so it's really wonderful when you build a community on this one thing. And currently what I feel is with Books Need People, we have a community or people are essentially introverted. They're very deep people. They don't think about life. And we feel things, they're nerds. And book nerds, that's exactly. You name it, shameless, emotions, right? I love it. Book nerds, indeed. And so it's, what it's like to build a community like that, far better than I know. And it's wonderful for me because I feel, when you read a really good book and you just want to tell everyone you love, like, read this book, it's so good. I get to do that professionally now. I think we are testing it. I think that works people. And we are blessed in that way because it's not many people get that opportunity. Yeah, and they have to make the most of it. Okay, let's conclude with an awesome poem from Karuna because she has got acting ovations and Razia is here.
founder, led by that. She's sitting quietly right there. I don't know her standing like I know better not standing. Razia is right there. Razia, nice. So she's there, and Razia, Karuna and Maria have, set the stage on fire. Tested my talents, So yeah. So it's a job, of course. But talking about the book to screen phenomena, what are the change you have noticed in terms of content? Because you are looking at it very analytically, not just from a consumption point of view. Does the OTT format is it more suited to it? How are things changing? It's here up. It is a fun. I think honestly, and I'm not just saying this because Siddharth is here. I'm a huge fan of his entrepreneur. I've known him for about a decade and a half. And you caught on to something where both streamers became a team. It's an obvious thing now to sort of look at books and look at novels as a way to adapt them into series for instance, purely because the series allows for multiple characters and exploring each character's journey. In chapter, you will make a salary, and so you could have, say, 18 characters in it, and you could delve into their life for one full episode and then come back to the lead. So whereas a film, for the fact that it be so strongly structured, is a thing of its own. So even if you pick up a book, the book has to be very different from the film. Because there is nothing that a book can capture that you can actually visualize in the way that a movie does. On the other hand, I think OTT series is the novella or the novel of our times. We also consume it very similarly. We literally watch it alone. It could be on your phone. It could also be on your television screen. And it's allowed for entertainment that is not family entertainment. So it's really you and the characters, you and that story in the way that we've always made books. So that's one big change that I noticed, and it's a change that goes so well with adapting novels because it's possible now. The other question that you asked was about what other changes have I seen in film. I think the adaptation from film to books is a tricky one, especially for people who are avid readers. Inevitably, I notice they seem to hate the movie that the book is based on, especially if they love that book, right? And the reason is obvious. The book demands far more out of you than a film does. The film is a far more visceral medium, but expecting to lie down all they say is you are bored. The analysis is not go beyond it, and that's good now. You don't need to do more than that. Whereas you're putting far more effort to read a book because the characters are there, the storyline is there, but you are also imagining all of it. So a reader in a novel is almost like the director of a film, according to me. So he's a costume designer, but he's imagined what that person is wearing. He's definitely the director of cinematography because he's imagining in his own head what that place looks like, right? He is certainly the casting director because he also imagined what that guy looks like in his own head based on a very general description of what that, I mean, of course, it becomes easier depending on the description, but you can't go berserk on the description either, right? So if you just kept it to a certain point. So for instance, I have seen a lot of films based on books that I've loved and I've rated them purely because I imagined something else in my head. And that's what came out. So to give you a great example, one of my favorite books growing up was The English August by Tupamani Chatterjee. It's a fabulous book set around the time when I was in college of a guy who came from my college. So there's so much connection, right? And he's talking about a guy who's sitting in the cafeteria, which is the cafeteria, I'm sitting and reading the book. So it could be this dude. When I see Rahul Bose, I think, no, that's not the guy. These are not a guy from my college. That's the guy from your college. Yeah, that's not the guy from my college. Not what saw. It's about looking a certain way. Like a guy who is like always the doobie in his hand, he's not going to be that, creepy as Rahul is. Much as a great actor he must be, but he is not the actor. He's not the actor for that role. So the moment you see Augustus Sen, Augustus Sen, hey, have you watched Jack Reacher? Yes. So the book and movie, it's the apt example, right? With Jack Reacher, who is that?
Jack is tall, scamp. He's like perhaps a Matthew David or something, you know. He's so tall, he's a big unit. And then comes along Tom Cruise. So the reader in us is confused. And that's why perhaps it sang as well, you know, in the beginning. And now they're changing, you know, for the character and everything. You're redoing it. You're so right. That is, it's counterproductive in some ways. Okay, a follow-up question to Siddharth, because we do a power comment at the isn't okay. You saw we trial by fire. You know, Abhay here is all you know, he's so good. And whatever he does, he does it for the art of it. That's what we love as well. But how did it fit into the sort of, you know, what happened with Upar, cinema and Krishnamurti? You know, because when I checked out your book, you know, and the pictures in there, thank you so much, because I'm thankful to you for adapting that book, first of all. But what were the discussions like with Trial by Fire? Because, you know, sometimes the characters looks too different, or, you know, it is not believable. Then what does the director and your team do to make it very authentic? Because these readers, all the readers are, yeah, they go on Twitter and write. Yes, you know, I hate this. I did not like the depiction and whatnot. So what were the discussions like? You know, the PTS. So you see, for Driver Fire, because it was a story that needed to be told, he had to get the emotion right. And because it's non-fiction, the reader is, you know, he's not imagining too much, because they can go and they can search and there is, you know, information available. So like, you know, when I said in fiction, they are the directors and the producer. In non-fiction, that gets limited a bit by reality. I think that very key. Also, we really focus, like you said, on the emotional portion of the parent journey to get justice for not only the kids, but for all the victims who are in the tragedy. And the goal was to get that right, so that it's also documented for the generation and for the global audience. So the first place that I actually went to with that film was Netflix about, I thought the world does not know about the story. Also, contemporary, the generation of today has no idea what happened. That is a good way to kind of bring it into the conversation. At least we like to tell everyone about the, you know, gist of it, because not everybody knows about 25 years ago. So the fire in a theater in Delhi, in Upar Cinema, where 59 victims died in the fire because of negligence of the theater owners. And it took them more than 25 years of parents who lost their children to get justice on behalf of all the victims from the courts. So the story of the journey was really focusing on these two parents and some other characters who were affected by the loss that they suffered of their family, you know, dying in that fire. And it really speaks about the problem system, the security, the way we take everything very casually in our country, safety, responsibility. Every person should be actually doing what they're supposed to do, but they sometimes don't. And then what happens? So the repercussions of that, I see, are and try to bring that out in the series on Netflix. Do check it out if you haven't. It's a tough story because it's about loss. It's also very inspiring to call this cycle of how do you know, fight for justice. And it also reflects upon though, but I think not much has changed in India, although what has changed. And I think this carries attitude to public safety. We abuse as much as we can. And I noticed that, you know, while reading the book, I noticed that even the exits for that cinema, they had extra seats. You remember those VIP boxes back in the day? And I don't know if they have it anymore. But there are 2-3 things that happened, you know, in the cinema at that time, in the theater. So all the places where they were supposed to keep fire extinguishers, they were broomed. The management of the cinema, the moment the audience would get in and the show would start, they would lock the door from outside with a lock. And there were no fire systems, obviously. The generator that caused the fire had a small fire that day in the morning, but they still continued with it. They didn't have permission to run the theater in that month. They were still running the theater. Like you said, the emergency exits were blocked because the owners made VIP boxes. I mean, these are all of those examples, but I think he's in so many other places in second outside theaters. Like when I walked in, I was wondering, where's the fire engineer? Where's the fire extinguisher? You're too aware in section because you have read the book, been through the process, and now you're so aware about this. So I feel in India, we think about these things in general.
I'll just read an excerpt, and I would like to hear from you exactly.
Would you like me to read it?
Of course, the underlined one.
Sure.
Although my
Here
favorite
to
one.
here?
Yes, just here
Here
to
to
here.
here.
For
Here to
all
here?
I know.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine, Syra huffed. I may have flirted with the hostess a little. She grinned, wiggling her upturned nose with glee. Rubani stared at Syra blankly. Why would you do that? Yeah, I mean, whatever. I just flirted. It's not that big a deal, Bani, Syra said, a bit offhand. Besides, she's probably straight too, for all I know.
So, what's your take on casual dating? What's that?
Casual dating?
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think that honestly, any type of relationship, I think that we live in a very interesting time for relationships right now because there's so many structures. I've done a lot of pieces on open relationships, on polyamory, on lots of polyfidelity, relationship anarchy. And it's just so interesting to me because, I mean, I think about the way that we've all been raised. We've been raised with this one very specific construct of what a relationship is supposed to look like. And you can either be good at that kind of relationship or bad at that kind of relationship. Yes. And I think what's really nice about right now and the conversations that have happened and started opening up other conversations is that there are a lot more structures now, and I think that is beautiful because different things work for different people.
Definitely.
Relationships are not a one size fits all, and different things work as long as there is transparency. And I think that casual dating is great. For some people, it's a means to an end. You do the casual dating thing until you find someone serious and you settle down. And for some people, like Syra in the book,
yes,
she has no interest in settling down.
Right.
So for her, she enjoys dating, she enjoys companionship, but she is set in her ways and she enjoys her life as it is. And I think that for me, I liked the fact that she was a casual dater who didn't really want commitment because I don't think women are given that model enough. Like women are always told that, you should be married by a certain age. You should
certain,
move towards that.
Certain rules of life, being married and being in love.
Exactly, and you're always told to move towards a goal. Like relationships are supposed to move towards a goal, and what women are never told to do, which we make that exception for men all the time, is just have fun. Have fun, discover your body, talk to people, meet people, explore what you care about, explore your sexuality, ask yourself questions, make mistakes. And I think that women are not encouraged to do that. Like women are encouraged to find a partner and settle down. And like, I don't think it's even a social strata thing because I've talked to people across social stratas and it seems to be common across the board. So you're seeing people from various different socioeconomic circles all headed towards that same goal of marriage.
Yes.
So I think that I like the idea of casual dating as a concept for women to adopt so that they find out more about themselves. It can be something they do forever. It can be something they do till they find something that works for them.
But more than, women to adopt that, I think the whole society should adopt it first so that not to judge girls.
Absolutely. But the thing is, the change also starts from us. And the thing is that of course, I have a lot of feelings on the way men should be educated about how to treat women. That is a subject for a separate podcast. But I think that women also have to be able to take that agency and know that you're going to be judged and people are always going to say something nasty. And the thing is, the more women who are willing to say, you know what, say what you want. It's fine. I'm still going to do what I want to do. I'm still going to do what I need to do. The more women that do that, the less power society has.
Yes, that's very true. So, Razia, what's your take on casual dating? How do you look upon it?
Okay, I think to each his own, right? What casual dating is doing in today's world is it's giving individuals opportunity to find their right partner. But what could potentially go wrong is when both the partners in the whole scheme have expectations set before, right? It could go awfully wrong if one person gets into with some other expectation and the other is not.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's the only downfall to this. But yeah, I mean, I always believe that humans should always have the choice of what they want to do, and finding a good life partner is important. And if casual dating helps them to find a better suitable one, why not?
I agree, and I think that that's exactly why I said transparency is important.
Absolutely.
So when you're getting into a casual dating space, I feel like it's very important for whoever it is to establish right from the get-go. You know, like
Right.
this is what I'm looking for. This is what I can give, and everyone needs to be
works,
on board.
You know, if you are being transparent, I think all the
And this
relationship
is
works.
this is not just about casual dating. This is about if you're in an open structure, if you're in a monogamous structure, if you're in a polyamorous structure. If you're not transparent, things will definitely blow
go wrong.
So monogamy is no solution, because how many people do you know who aren't transparent with their partners and do whatever they want?
Not. I think people
Exactly.
not accept it. Although you know, in olden days when we read any of our Mahabharata and Ramayana, if we'll see, polygamy was there. You know, it is a part of. Do you know that, right? Polygamy
Polyamory?
it is acceptable, but now it's not.
No, that's actually very true, because the thing is, if you look at the trajectory of relationship structures, you'll find that even, for example, the Elizabethan era was a lot more sexually free than the Victorian era, which came afterwards. And we tend to generally assume that progress moves forward, but that's actually not true. There are moments in even our country's history that have been more repressed than times before it. You know, so I think that it has a lot to do with the socio-economic culture and the structure at that time. Very often it has to do with governance, it has to do with a lot of different things. But I think it's important to just keep having conversations. And like, the more conversations you have with people about it, the more likely you are to open up their minds and to open up your own mind.
In this conversation, what are the advantages of kind of, reading fiction? Because a lot of people, and I know that people are just, Let's talk about morning rituals, because that's very interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this kind of, some people, blast music, or I know some people like me who blast music. We blast music.
Same here. Sometimes there's AP Dillo, loudly in the morning.
Just AP Dillo, and somebody told me, like, why do you do that? Just put on some bhajan or something. I don't want that. I just want some heavy metal in my life. So, like that. So, what about these morning rituals? Again, I love this about your book, that it's very pragmatic.
Yeah.
Whenever you have suggested something, you have again stepped back and kind of also said that, okay, if this doesn't work for you, you do something else.
Yeah.
That's quite cool, to be honest. And tell us more about the morning rituals, how it changed you, because morning rituals, because 70%, that's why. And then we'll obviously talk about the night one.
So, I mean, okay, so one thing I want really people, and that's what I try to reflect in the cover is as well, is that, like, when you think of morning rituals, a lot of our morning rituals are already practiced at night. You know, so what we do at night determines our day, and what we do in the day determines our night. So first of all, we just switch our thinking around like that.
It's kind of train. It's a train, right?
I mean, you can't be like, my morning has to be perfect, but I slept at 11 o'clock at night within half an hour of me eating like a heavy dinner.
Yes.
Then your morning's going to be screwed.
Yeah.
So what did you do the night before? First of all, we need to look at that. Like, is there adequate time before you went to bed? Did you eat a lot of fiber in your dinner? Did you eat a light meal as opposed to a heavy meal? Because sometimes we eat a heavy meal and we wake up feeling really tired.
Yeah.
So all of those things, so that's how you will wake up fresh.
Yeah.
Then, of course, like, one of the most important things that I feel people need to train themselves to do, and somehow I've trained myself to do this, but somehow when I have a flight to catch, this training just goes out of this thing. Waking up without an alarm.
Oh yes.
Right?
Yes,
I mean,
you mentioned it in the book.
I mean, that is really the ideal way to wake up, because you don't want to shave that REM sleep, which is so important for your emotional health, well-being, and your creativity. But of course, like, just then train pakadni hoti hai, just then flight pakadni hoti hai, then somehow.
But that's what
you
you
don't
mentioned
wake up.
You've written about it, no? The REM, and not many people understand it. Of course, with smartwatches and everything, they know the lingo now because it shows up there.
Yeah.
But how important is it? How crucial is it?
Well, you know, I mean, NREM and REM sleep are both important. NREM happens in the first half of the night. REM is like, you know, when we start, like, you know, when our eyes start moving and, you know, when you start dreaming, that is your REM sleep. And that's really important because that determines our mood, our emotional well-being, our creativity, all the things that actually make us function healthily and happily, right? I mean, it's not just about even memory retention for that matter.
Okay.
You know, so we need to have like both cycles of sleep are very important.
Okay.
And the best kind of sleep is when you wake up on your own as opposed to an alarm. You know, ideally we should train our bodies to do that. Sabka sleep cycle hota hai. And like by, I don't know what your age is, by my age, I know my requirement of sleep
is... Are we really doing this? Like
no, we don't want to do this. Me especially, I don't want to do this.
I'm 38. I'm 38.
So okay. I'm younger than you.
Well done.
I'm 5 years younger than you.
I know what you mean. What you mean. It becomes slightly kind of, you know, everything. If you want to kind of remodel your life, it becomes slightly tougher. Maybe the 20s can be easier. And everything gets slightly tougher.
Yeah, also like, you know, a lot of the times when we grow older, we have things like memory loss and like lack of sleep. And you don't know whether those things are actually connected, right? I mean, that's what scientists are trying to figure out. Maybe like, you know, lack of sleep is related to memory loss. Because, you know, the more you sleep, it does help you retain your memories, right? So that is very important. And like we know our sleep cycles by our age, right? I know I need 7.5 hours of sleep. That is a sleep that I'm very happy with. There are a lot of people who
7.5 is just the right.
Is the magic number, right?
Number.
8.
How did that happen? You know, why are people propagating this 6-hour bullshit?
Do they?
They do. People are doing 6 hours. And I know them, and people are doing 5 hours.
Depends, you know. I mean, if people are doing a lot of meditation. Now, this is something that was told to me by a somnologist when I was doing a story on meditation in Harper's Bazaar. So he did tell me that if you meditate for even 15 minutes a day, and in that much meditation, also you'll actually meditate only for like, he said a minute or two, but I feel like that's also a luxury. Actual meditation jo hoti hai, that like properly that cut off, even if you get like that 30 minutes of like complete disconnection is a luxury, right?
Wow.
Because it's just like, you know, I mean, for most people who are meditating, there's always some sort of flow of thoughts happening. So anyway, he said like, you know, in that 15 minutes of meditation, even if you can meditate for a minute or 2 minutes, that will reduce your need for sleep by a couple of hours at night. Yeah. So that is So if you're doing spiritual activities, that's again like the power of ritual, right? I mean, that disconnection, non-sleep deep rest, which I have mentioned in the book, is like meditation is something like that. So you know, I mean, by meditating.
By the way, before I forget, I changed I think so. I wrote somewhere. I think I wrote on LinkedIn, and I made a post. The books I was reading in February. And one of your book was there. So I wrote that ASAP. You know what I did? I ordered this copper, you know, tongue cleaner from Amazon because you have written about it. And I was like, so yeah, I did that immediately. I didn't know.
Aren't you addicted to that now? I mean, like, you know, you can't even, like, when you go to you know, when you travel and you go to a hotel room, you don't have a tongue cleaner. You just feel like a little like something's missing.
No, I will not do it at all if I don't have that one.
Oh, really?
So I'm so addicted now. And it has just been 15 days to be precise. Because tabhi I think so I received the book, and I immediately told my daughter as well and my wife that okay, we are doing this and this is what she has suggested and we are doing this. So it's like that.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Incremental changes. And would you like to tell us more about sometimes the devices we are using somewhat, not screens, but you know, stuff like that, very small, you know, change.
So let's just start with screens first of all, right? I mean, when we wake up in the morning, like, you know, we are supposedly in the alpha state of mind, you know, which is supposed to be the gateway to the subconscious. And what most of us do is like, you know, you reach out for your phone and then you see what messages we have. Ekdam se mood kharab ho jata hai. Mera to mood kharab ho jata hai, you know. And like, that's how I noticed, like, you know, sometimes when I don't reach for when I do reach for my phone, you know, because I'm thinking about something, that the day passes in a very different way as opposed to if I just keep my phone away from myself for an hour after waking up. Like really do all my morning rituals without actually looking at the phone, without having anybody's energy in my space. or my family space, that's very important. Then other than that, like the first thing, like personally.
करेंगे कैसे लेकिन Vasudha? It's very tough now because I read in the book as well. It has come out, and because it is one of your frustrations of kind of because it's tough to implement as well. For others, I don't know if it would work for you. And I also try every day, by the way. And I'm sure our team here who will be in the BTS are trying as well. But it's easier said than done,
Yeah, well, I completely agree. You are right about that. But these are just small ways with how you, like you said, incremental things, right? I mean, these are also small ways about how you control your mind, right? I mean, just keep your phone away from you. Like, don't do it for an hour. Just do it for 10 minutes. Just do it for 15 minutes. Nothing is that urgent that you've slept for, I don't know, 7.5 hours. It can wait for 7 hours, 45 minutes also. Why give your phone that much control over you? Anyway, your eyes are going to be glued to the phone for the rest of the day. So,
in some way or the other.
Really.
Laptop or any other screen.
Really. So, give yourself some rest. Then, of course, I mean, there's so many things to do in the morning, but I always tell people, like, start with like one ritual or two rituals. Don't make your mornings very heavy. Like, personally, I love the whole, like, tongue cleaning,
pulling.
Oil pulling. I just love oil pulling.
Tell because people won't know about it.
So
a little
really?
bit about that.
Okay.
नहीं पता हो तो लोगों
नहीं
को.
पता हो तो.
हमें ऐसा लग रहा है कि जैसे मुझे सारी बुक्स के बारे में पता रहता है in general. I'm in my own hunky dory world.
Right.
But generally लोगों को पता ही नहीं है.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
लोगों के morning ritual ना बहुत ही simplistic है.
अच्छा.
In reality, so I really wanted to kind of you should tell everybody that what is it exactly.
So the first thing, okay, I'll just talk in first person because that's how I like to whatever. That's my style of when if somebody wants to pick up something from this. I like to clean my eyes with rose water every morning.
Okay.
That is what my dadi used to do, and she used to say that if you clean your eyes with rose water, your eye whites they turn so white that they almost look blue.
Wow.
So you can get your eye cups also to do that, but if you don't have eye cups, then you can just take like some rose water, steam distilled, of course, good quality steam distilled rose water in the palm of your hand, and just put your your eye into it and just rotate it left and right and whatever. It really takes away the debris of the night.
Wow.
Eyes are supposed to be like the seat of pith. Pith is like all very fiery, very heating.
Yes.
So rose water is very cooling for the eyes. It's astringent. So all the chip part of the eyes really goes away. It just really feels very clear, very
makes
calm.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
So you can try that.
I will do it.
It's a wonderful thing to
My
do
eyes are
early.
screwed anyway, so
are mine. So are mine.
I better try it.
I don't know.
And guys, do try it as well because it's a very simple thing. It's very what do you call it? Traditional.
Yeah.
And it's easy to pull off, I think. So it's just like brushing your teeth. So do try it.
Also, I just want to quickly digress and say that we're all looking for bliss. And when I reach this state, I'll find bliss. When I do 40 hours of meditation, I'll find bliss. When I'll find this, I'll find bliss. But you know what bliss is? Bliss is coming back home, feeling completely parched and drinking that water. Bliss is waking up in the morning and splashing your eyes with cool rose water. Bliss is sitting with a friend after really long and giving them a hug. These are you will never find a moment of bliss which is so amazing and so huge or whatever. After a long run, you sit down.